All right, today we're tackling a big one. Nassim Nicholas Taleb's game-changing book, The Black Swan. We're going to get into why we're so incredibly blind to the massive random events that, believe it or not, shape pretty much everything, our history, our markets, and even our own lives. So, to really get our heads around this, let's start with a story. It's a simple little parable, but honestly, it's kind of devastating once you get it. Okay, so picture this turkey. For 1,000 straight days, it gathers evidence. Every single morning, a friendly hand shows up with food. The turkey's confidence that this is just the way the world works grows stronger every single day. In fact, its confidence reaches an all-time high right before the day of the axe. The turkey's model of the world was perfect, right up until the one day it mattered most. And look, this isn't just some cute story about a bird. Taleb's real point, the uncomfortable question, is this. In our finances, in our jobs, in our societies, are we the turkey? Are we just confidently using the past to predict the future, completely oblivious to the massive, game-changing event that's lurking just around the corner? So, this is what Taleb famously calls a black swan. But for an event to really earn that title, it's got to have three specific things going on. First, it's a total outlier. I mean, nobody saw it coming. Second, its impact is massive. It changes everything. And third, and this part is just so important, after it happens, our brains kick into overdrive and we invent stories to explain it, making it seem like it was obvious and predictable all along. So, okay, if these events are so huge, why are we so bad at seeing them coming? Well, Taleb's argument is pretty blunt. Our brains are running on some seriously faulty software. We're just not wired to understand reality as it actually is. And the biggest bug in our software, he calls it the narrative fallacy. See, our brains are addicted to stories. We look at the past, which is really just a messy, random jumble of facts, and we can't help ourselves. We have to connect the dots and turn it into a neat, clean story where A caused B and B caused C. It makes us feel smart, like we understand how the world works, but really it's an illusion. A dangerous one that makes us way too confident about the future. We're also completely fooled by something Taleb calls silent evidence. Think about it. We see the entrepreneurs who made it big. We study the companies that succeeded. We hear the stories of the survivors. What we don't see is the giant graveyard of failed businesses, terrible ideas, and people who didn't make it. That evidence is silent. And because we only see the winners, we get this totally warped view of reality where success looks way easier and risk looks way smaller than it actually is. Now, this is where things get really interesting. To help us navigate all this randomness, Taleb basically gives us a new map of reality. He says we're living in two totally different worlds, and our biggest problem is that we're constantly mixing them up. On one side, you have Mediocristan. Think of this as the safe, predictable, mild world. A good example is human height. If you get 1,000 people in a room, even if you add the tallest person on Earth, it's not really going to change the average height all that much. It's governed by the collective. But then, you have Extremistan, and this is the wild world. Think about wealth. You take that same room of 1,000 people and you add just one Jeff Bezos, and suddenly his wealth completely dwarfs everybody else's combined. In Extremistan, one single outlier changes the whole game. And this difference between the two worlds perfectly explains one of our biggest mental errors, the ludic fallacy. Ludic just means related to games. We make the mistake of thinking real life is like a casino game, where the rules are clear, the odds can be calculated, it's all neat and tidy. But real life, it isn't a casino. It's wild, the rules can change on you in a second, and the biggest risks are the ones you didn't even know were part of the game. All right, so this brings us to one of Taleb's most, let's say, provocative arguments. And that's the fundamental problem with our so-called experts. You see, the problem is incredibly simple. A lot of our experts, especially in fields like economics or finance, are using the map of Mediocristan to find their way through the wild jungles of Extremistan. They're using tools like the bell curve, tools that are designed for that safe, predictable world, and trying to apply them to a reality that's completely dominated by wild, unpredictable black swans. They build these beautiful, elegant models that are great at explaining all the little, everyday ups and downs. But those models have a fatal flaw. They completely ignore the possibility of the one massive event that can wipe everything out. As Taleb puts it, their models are right about all the things that don't really matter, and dangerously wrong about the one thing that does. So at this point, you're probably thinking, okay, Great, the world's totally random, experts are clueless, so what am I supposed to do? Well, this is where Taleb's work gets super practical. He offers us a new way forward, a strategy not of prediction, but of what he calls robustness. It's really a whole new mindset. First, stop trying to guess probabilities. Who cares if the odds are 1 in a million? Instead, focus on the consequences. Just ask yourself, can I survive this if it happens? Second, he recommends a barbell strategy. Keep most of your stuff, say 90%, extremely safe and conservative. But with the other 10%, you can take a bunch of small, aggressive risks trying to get exposed to a positive black swan. Third, this means you should embrace tinkering and trial and error, not rigid, top-down plans. And finally, stop trying to predict specifics. Trying to guess which disaster will hit just makes you more vulnerable to all the others you didn't even think of. Look, Taleb's work really forces us to be humble, to confront how little we actually know about the world. But that's not a negative thing, it's empowering. We don't have to predict the future to be able to thrive in it. And so that leaves us all with a final really powerful question to think about. In your own life, what's the biggest black swan you're not preparing for?